Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only, Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games DS version, and welcome to day 15 for the Paris Olympics 2024. So yesterday, we did somehow went into the Galaxy Circuit and able to experiencing not only trampoline, but as well as archery, javelin throw, 10-meter platform, and of course the final dream event we somehow encounter in this version, and that's what appears to be Dream Long Jump. So, despite we did have some bit of mistakes in Dream Long Jump, well, regardless of everything else though, we did somehow manage able to dominate the entire circuit when it comes to Galaxy Circuit. So as a result, yeah, once again it's a flawless run. So today, for this video, is that we're going to be continuing things on and move on to the next circuit, and that's what appears to be Universal Circuit. So we have 400-meter hurdles, triple jump, and archery is back again. And on top of that, with the forms of Dream Table Tennis and finally Dream Fencing. So, in terms of the forms of the character roster we've got left, in terms of specific characters we did somehow use, there's only down to 2 characters left. So we have one Mario character left, which appears to be Bowser, and then the other one, which appears to be Dr. Eggman. But if you couldn't tell already from the thumbnail already, obviously though, we're going to be selecting Bowser in the forms of Universal Circuit. So let's get this thing to it, shall we? So, of course, we'll save the actual circuit chance for later, until possibly whenever we get to the halfway point in terms of the forms of Universal Circuit. So either way, let's get this thing to it with 400-meter hurdles. So, anyways though, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 9th of August today, in some cases in 2024 today, and relatively speaking, though, we've only got about 2 days to go until the closing ceremony for the Paris Olympics is about to be, efficient. So, either way, there's nothing else I can really explain about this, apart from the fact that there is one particular game has recently been added to the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack recently, and that's what appears to be a Game Boy Advance game. And I was expecting about the fact that there's going to be Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Well, actually, as it turns out, I was wrong, because as a result, instead we're about to be getting Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team on the Game Boy Advance, which I wasn't expecting that particular choice, although the reason why they somehow choose this is because obviously that was about the fact that despite the fact that we've already got ourselves the remake of both Blue Rescue Team and Red Rescue Team at the same time, making a title called Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. And aside from all that stuff though, that's as far as I can try to say about that, I guess. So, yeah. Nothing else I can really say about that. So, and there's also another thing worth noting for is about the fact that, well, suffice to say that for those of you who pre-order The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, usually for GameStop, that basically though you get yourselves a nice little Zelda Vaporik poster. So yeah, that's why I classify that. And on top of all that stuff though, is about the fact that yes indeed, we actually get ourselves the actual confirmation for the sake of the forms of the updated not only Switch sales units, but as well as the forms of the actual game sales copies as well. Well, mind you, it's not going to be that much, or granted, compared to the forms of how it does it in the beginning portion of 2024, mind you. And as a result, we actually got ourselves, well, let's just say 2 new titles has been added to the actual sales numbers. So, both of which are Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Switch Remake, and then the other one, which is the most recent one at the time, that's what appears to be Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. And aside from all that stuff though, is about the fact that when it comes to the top 10 game Switch sales, as far as this is concerned, it's basically unchanged compared to the forms of how it does it on the past few financial results in terms of the forms of Nintendo Switch sales numbers as far as everything else are concerned. So either way, regardless of everything else though, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still on top right now, but this time it's actually now on 62.19 million copies sold for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So no surprising for this point right there, especially concerning that now the DLC is now a thing. So obviously though, kudos to that. And meanwhile, in terms of Animal Crossing New Horizons, it's still on second place but so far is actually now on 45.85 million copies sold, so it's doing rather well. And in terms of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as far as I'm concerned, it's still in 3rd place, and as a result, it's currently now on to 34.66 million copies sold, so it's doing really well, especially like I said before, DLC is now a thing. And in terms of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, specifically the Switch version most likely, basically though, that particular version is now on 32.05 million copies sold, which is impressive, concerning for the fact that not only DLC was a thing after all, but also about the fact that a lot of people do own Breath of the Wild on Switch version most likely, because you know, you can play this legendary game on the go, which I think is actually works pretty swell, especially concerning that unlike the Wii U, that it is not able to actually continue their progressioning in terms of sales numbers on the Wii U version, because you know, the Wii U was a flop at the end. So anyway, and in terms of Super Mario Odyssey though, well, it's actually now on to 28.21 million copies sold, so yeah, it's doing rather well. And in terms of the Pokemon games, usually for Pokemon Sword / Shield combined, that those two games have now sold for about 26.35 million copies sold. So it's doing rather well, despite the forms of controversial opinion when it comes to the forms of anything else potentially. Oh, in addition to that, is about the fact that recently what I've also noticed is that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet combined, that those two games combined usually has 25.29 million copies sold, despite again with the controversial opinions about with the forms of some graphical hiccups, as well as the forms of some technical issues, and on top of all that stuff though, again, much like the forms of how it does it for some other Nintendo Switch games at this point in time, ranging from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Animal Crossing New Horizons, as well as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and even The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, usually because DLC is now a thing, of course. So anyway, meanwhile, about the fact that Super Mario Party, you know, with the first one, potentially, on the Switch, basically though, Super Mario Party is still doing really well, especially concerning for the fact that, you know, Super Mario Party Jamboree is almost getting closer to its release, so no matter what though, it's currently now on to 20.84 million copies sold for Super Mario Party, so quite surprising for sure, especially despite how some people complain about the forms of how small the boards are, and on top of that, we have to forced to use the single Joy-Con controllers in order to able to play the game completely, which I found was a little bit uncomfortable every nowadays, because still, I'm basically used to with the Switch Pro controller, as you probably would expect, which luckily, Super Mario Party Jamboree is now able to actually have Pro controller support, at least to be more specifically, well, in terms of some minigames anyway. So, anyway, and on top of that, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is now on 20.80 million copies sold, so as a result, the sequel to Breath of the Wild is also doing really well, especially concerning for the fact that everyone else has been waiting for that game for so long, myself included, and on top of all that stuff though, it's a shame about the fact that there's no DLC to be found on Tears of the Kingdom, but honestly, I'm gonna be alright without any sort of DLC, especially concerning for the fact that we're on to the last batch of games approaching for the regular Switch 1 before we move on to the Switch successor in the future. So either way, I suppose that particular topic can wait during at some point in a later time. To be more specifically, not only by the end of this year, but also possibly on 2025 if it's possible. So, and in terms of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe though, is actually now on to 17.61 million copies sold. So, I honestly have no idea why that New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is still doing really well compared to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Well, don't get me wrong, that Super Mario Bros. Wonder still did really well in terms of the actual sales numbers, but I just don't understand about the fact that when it comes to other recent games at the time, that it does not get updated in terms of the forms of the actual sales numbers, including Mario Party Superstars. I think my guess is about the fact that, well, exponentially speaking, we still got some bunch of titles left in terms of the forms of the actual sales numbers during that time, but regardless of everything else though, that's as far as I can think about it. Now, in terms of the forms of the recent released titles at this point in time, when it comes to the forms of the financial results, those two games, as I mentioned this earlier, which there are Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Switch Remake, and recently Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which by that time about the fact that the financial results did somehow manage to record it for the likes of by the end of June, and as far as it turns out, both of those games did really well for the actual sales numbers. Well, at least so far anyway. For Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Switch Remake, did somehow receive 1.76 million copies sold, so that's actually doing really dang good, especially concerning for the fact that for those of you who ever missed out on this legendary GameCube classic title, then obviously though that was a perfect opportunity that you can now able to experience this legendary game, but on a remake format. So, and thus you can play the game on the go, which is obviously a huge plus on my book. Although despite the fact that it's a remake, not so much a brand new installment, but honestly though, I'm gonna be fine with that as it is. So, and dang, I was literally so close to able to actually win the first match on Dream Table Tennis. Although, quite frankly though, this will be the oh, darn it, I timed it way too early. Yeah, if you use that special move a little bit earlier, then obviously though you'll miss that ball. So I just want to classify that. So anyway, as far as Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is concerned right about now, currently that game is now on 1.19 million copies sold. So yeah, it's also doing really well, although nowhere near as much compared to the forms of how it does it for Luigi's Mansion 3, because as far as new titles are concerned, it will boost sales, but as far as remakes and remasters as far as I'm concerned, that most of the time it did pretty well, but other times not so much. But either way, at least on the plus side of things though, is that the majority of the Wii U games ported over to the Nintendo Switch has been doing significantly well when it comes to both Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as well as New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and especially notable with Pikmin 3 Deluxe, as well as the forms of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and among all others. So that's as far as I can try to say about it. So anyways though, and there's also another thing it's worth noting though actually, is about the fact that recently what I've also realized is that Princess Peach Showtime has also updated its actual million copies department, which this time around though, Princess Peach Showtime is now on to 1.30 million copies sold. So it's doing really well, even though nowhere near is like massively successful compared to the forms of how it does it on well, compared to the forms of how it does it for Super Mario Bros. Wonder, mind you, because, you know, that was actually a grand return to 2D Mario gameplay. Well, ever since the New Super Mario Bros. U back on the Wii U, despite the fact that the Wii U is a flop, as I said before. So, anyways though, and there's also another thing it's worth noting for, is that apparently though, Game Informer has been closed its doors after 33 years. So, yeah, that's a bit of a tragic story, especially concerning for the fact that I will talk more about that if we get onto the forms of the final circuit in the entire game, which you probably already know what's to come, which as a result is definitely Big Bang Circuit for sure. So either way, wow, that was actually a really good run right there when it comes to face up against with Dr. Eggman. So, oh, and by the way, if you play as Bowser, and if you somehow win on some events, like for instance with Dream Table Tennis, you might realize that his voice clip sounds familiar if you managed able to beat someone on one of those events, which that particular voice clip that I'm sure you might able to actually heard about, that voice clip was actually reused from not only for Mario Party 6, but as well as Mario Party 7 as well. And I'm pretty sure that could be also applies for Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix or something. Well, I may be wrong, but either way, let's go ahead and move on to the final event in terms of Universal Circuit. That's of course Dream Fencing, which as a result, we've already experienced this before, and relatively speaking, it was about the fact that differently from the previous circuit. As far as everything else, as far as I'm concerned, there's no tutorial stuff anymore, because obviously though we can just, well, jump straight into the actual event itself. So anyway, let's go and face off against with Wario to start things off. And relatively speaking though, hopefully though, we'll try to able to achieve first place this time around though, because last time we were so close to achieve first place all in all in Dream Fencing. But hopefully we can able to redeem ourselves this time around though, not only for the fact that we are playing as Bowser as a power type character, but hopefully we're trying to able to learn to utilize with parrying most of our time, so just in case we can able to defend ourselves when it comes to thrusting. So anyway, speaking of which, when it comes to the forms of the actual financial results of the Nintendo Switch sales units as far as I'm concerned, recently we're now on to 143.42 million units sold, so it's still doing really well, especially concerning for the fact that we are slowly catching up to not only Nintendo DS, but as well as PlayStation 2. Well, usually relatively speaking, we've only got about a couple of months left now until it reaches to the finale for the sake of the forms of the financial year results, until in March 2025, so it's going to be pretty tough though, especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, we've only got about, let's just say 6 titles left, for the sake of the forms of the actual specific announced first-party titles with this financial year ending until March 2025. So those games are Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, alongside with the forms of Imo, the Smiling Man, as well as The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Mario Luigi Brothership, and finally Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. So if you're probably wondering, what about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? Well, it's a bit difficult to tell at this point, especially concerning we're still not exactly at 2025 yet, but hopefully though we'll find out more about it during at some point once we get to the forms open sometime in May 2025, if it's a possibility or something, but again, we'll have to wait and find out. So anyways though, oh jeez, I did not realize that Dr. Eggman is going to be using the bomb as the special attack he's going to be using, but hopefully we can able to try to win. And does that usually count as automatic victory? Oh my god! I somehow finally win with a little bit of health left. But yeah, like I said before, that voice clip right there was actually reused from Mario Party 6 alongside with Mario Party 7, so I just wanted to let you guys know about that. So yeah, we somehow almost got to a flawless victory when it comes to forms of Universal Circuit, despite we were so close to achieve first place in Triple Jump, but I honestly don't mind having second place in terms of Triple Jump, mainly because I wasn't really fast enough when it comes to the forms to try to utilize with the actual flicking the stylus with the touchscreen in mind. So yeah, yet again, we somehow claim ourselves the next trophy, but this time what appears to be the Universal Trophy. So as a result, we've only got one more trophy left, and as of course, Big Bang Circuit. So that will be the true finale of Circuit Mode on Mario & Sonic at the Olympic Games DS version. So with that being said folks, is that we get endings of this point right here. So join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Mario & Sonic at the Olympic Games DS version. Is that we're going to be heading off to the final circuit, and not just Masters class, but the entire Circuit Mode. And as of course, Big Bang Circuit. So this will be interesting. So I'll see you guys until, as I said, until tomorrow. Later fellas.